a lot of members have been saying, why aren't we doing more trades? And you're free to trade whatever you want. I have been holding on to cash, other than some very small trades that I have. I do have a silver trade on. I'm still in Google, still in Tesla, and have silver. But other than that, and some put butterflies that are, were chump change. But I've been waiting for the markets to kind of weigh in on whether it's political, geopolitical, data, earnings, Supreme Court, Powell. There's a lot going on. And the way I read it, the markets haven't truly, the American markets have not truly decided yet what they want to do. And so I give you some evidence here. You might not have looked at things quite this way before, so this might be new for some of you to look at. I'll start with NVIDIA and then I'll go over to metals. So this is a 60-minute chart of NVIDIA. What I did was I customized the session. I went to sessions and I put in the 24-hour session. I normally don't include that. And if you have a daily chart, it doesn't matter. It doesn't show it anyway. But I usually, if I'm using intraday charts, I'll use, the U.S. stock market along with the pre-market. I don't really put post, and I don't really need to see 24-hour. But in this instance, I'm showing you the hourly chart of NVIDIA, and I changed the time frame to 24-hour. Now, what you're looking at here is this shaded area here and here. Is the aftermarket. So the markets close here and then continues on here all the way to 8 o'clock in the evening. And then when they open, it's super early in the morning until we actually open here. So we close here, open here. That, for the most part, is the European markets. It's the overseas, not just Europe. It's the overseas market. This kind of shaded area, shaded area, shaded area, shaded area, shaded area. And so if you look from closed to shaded area, what do you see? Do you see something unusual? Almost exactly what happened today. In fact, if you look at this, when it happened, down, up, boom, gap up, down to here, up. It's exactly the same. And then you can see their reaction afterwards. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody see it? Or no? What I'm showing you is that the markets overseas, foreign investors, not U.S. American investors, foreign investors with NVIDIA are buying these little daily dips, are buying it, putting money into NVIDIA. And then American investors, when the market actually opens, are selling almost every day, especially Friday and then Monday. So it's and on NVIDIA, on a chart that has been struggling, you see foreign money kind of coming in to try to buy these little dips along the way. But American investors are selling it. It's really an interesting phenomenon. And if you look at metals, like a lot of people were wondering with silver when the reports came out, data reports, and the dollar rising here, rising dollar, you would have thought that would cause this. But instead, we have this. So, what is going on? Why is silver and gold, why are metals popping higher and higher and higher if the dollar is going higher? And the reason, at least the way I read it, is that the foreign markets are watching the war between Powell and Trump. That is one thing that they see. And this creates a good amount of uncertainty. If, let's just say, if Powell leaves early, that's uncertainty because who knows what will happen. The markets won't like that at all. If he stays and he's stubborn and for political reasons chooses not to lower rates the way Trump suggests that he should because he believes that the American investor will do better, the American homeowner will do better. If he capitulates and does that, the fear is by lowering rates that might end up spiking inflation. And so that might not be good for the markets. And now that they're, in a battle, the question is about the whole independence of the Fed. That's one of the things that is being, on full display for the world to see, the ridiculous fight that is going on. And it is ridiculous because let's be honest, there ain't nothing independent about the Fed. Now, you might think that what the media will lead you to believe is that we need an independent Fed and that Trump and the Republicans' influence over the Fed to do what they want them to do, that's, threat to democracy and a threat to our markets, and that's bad. Well, what about Biden's influence over the Fed? Whether you are on one side of the political spectrum or the other, nobody can deny that there appeared to be a lot of political pressure from the Biden administration for the Fed to not talk about inflation in the election year until they had no choice, but they had to. And they called it transitory, and then eventually they did a rate hike and allowed inflation to get a little bit too out of control because they didn't want to raise rates because the markets would go down. If they raised rates and the equities went down to tame the market and to reset the market, this is the economy. And as Bill Clinton once said, it's the economy, stupid. So if the economy appeared to be dropping going into an election year, that would be bad for the current administration. So anyone that thinks that it is Trump alone that is exerting influence on the Fed has blinders on. Both parties do it. However, I will tell you what I believe, non-politically, is that the Fed is not an independent body because they are run and influenced by the banks. And you will not hear that in most places. Yes, the bankers are the ones that, BlackRock, JP Morgan, etc., etc. So this whole thing about independence of the Fed is a big smokescreen, and in my opinion, that ain't the fight. The fight is whether or not raising or lowering interest rates, how it's going to affect inflation, and that's what it's really all about. And because of this battle here that is taking place, foreign investment is concerned. So guess what they did in the overnight after the weekend going into Monday? You can see it right here. Everybody see that solid yellow candle? Everybody, you'll see. Everybody see towards the end of the day the sell off in the dollar happening on Thursday. I'm sorry, Friday. Can you see it? I'll open it up a little more. I mean, I could make it into an hourly chart, but this should be enough for you to see it. Y'all see this? Boom. At the end of the day, dollar down. And then look at Monday. Boom, boom. See that? That's a sell off of the dollar. That's far. And if you look at what time it all transpired, you'll see that's foreign investment dumping the dollar partly because of the Fed, Powell, Trump, blah, 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 uncertainty. So where do they put their money? So you see the dollar dump, and they take their money out of that, and where do they put it? Right there. Right there. But you know how I can tell that it's foreigners doing this and not Americans? I lead you back to the first chart I showed you. Dun, dun, dun. Look at this. So here's Friday. Friday was the 9th. This is the 9th here, right? Yep. Here it is. Look. So silver was topping, right? And the short-term investor got out. The long-term investor started to get out. And then you see this. Look, the markets, look at the reversal here. Markets closing, a bit oversold, ready to go down. And look at this right here. Look, this is the overnight. Look at this, overnight. Look at this, the overnight. Look at the move from here to here on the chart. That's quite a bit, considering on Thursday, between the pre-market and the market close, look at the range here. Look at the range here. And then you see, and look at the range here, right? See how the range is kind of like, from here to here, from here to here. But look at it from here to here. Look at it. It's almost triple. But then immediately when the markets opened right here, look at the sell-off right here at the open. And then once we got to, noon, after lunch, look at it. Down, down, down. And that was right after the market closed. You see the reaction on silver this way? So look at this. Boom. And then boom. So if this was active U.S. investors buying silver, you would have seen a continuation on that day. The majority of the move was in the overnight. And then you got the reaction here. So that leads me to believe that all the conversation, and there's a number of things. So there's obviously there's the whole Fed thing with Powell and Trump. I talked to you about that. Okay. Then because Trump doesn't think that Powell is going to do it, he's not going to cut rates, not the way he wants between now and May. So he floated the idea of buying $200 billion worth of bonds to see if he could bring mortgage rates down. That was one idea. And another idea came in about restricting corporations from buying single-family homes. Buying single-family homes. So that was another piece of the puzzle. Foreign investors go, oh, no. If they do that, the banks will suffer. The banks suffer. It'll put pressure on the Fed. This is one unholy mess going on here between what Trump wants to do and what the Fed is trying to exert their independence. And then the law, now all of a sudden the Justice Department is going after Powell for lying to Congress and the spending of the building. And all of this makes foreigners nervous. So they dump the dollar, and look what they do. They put it right here into silver. Why not? But the American investor goes, not so fast. Look at today's reaction. Look where the move happened in silver from the market closed down here yesterday. Look what happened in the overnight. Boom, 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 boom. And then look at this. Within an hour, selling off. Does everybody see that? Overbought, and the reaction is not so fast. So I know the initial look of silver, when you look at it, is holy cannoli. I thought Michael said silver was going to go down. Why? The dollar is going up, and so is silver. That's odd. And look at this. This happened just while we were talking over the last 20 minutes or so. See it? So it's just something to watch. I am still bearish metals because I think the dollar is going to continue to go higher. I think short-term investors have peeled off their profits. Long-term investors have gotten rid of a good amount of it. And most of what you're seeing here is the foreign reaction as proven by the charts that I showed you earlier. Does this make sense? Everybody sort of clear about this?
Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video from Trade With Me Now. Make sure to go ahead and like this video and subscribe to our channel so you make sure that you catch our next video right when it's released. Also, if you have a question or comment, please leave that in the comments section below. And of course, if you want to learn more about Trade With Me Now or join our community of profitable traders, go to tradewithmenow.com. There's also a link in the description below.